there were two people approaching, there were probably the same person, we think, but under two numbers approaching MPs, staffers, journalists. They were calling themselves Charlie and Abby, but it was some of it was very sophisticated and some of it was a real throw everything at the wall and see what sticks approach. So my colleague Aggie talked to someone who received messages from Charlie who said that it was short for Charlotte, and the profile picture was of a man and a woman, and they said, oh, I'm the woman. And then there was someone else who was a gay man who received messages from Charlie who said, oh, I'm the man, silly. So they knew enough about their targets to know how they should present themselves.
Now, a second Conservative MP has revealed he was targeted in the Westminster sexting scandal. Dr Luke Evans, the MP for Bosworth, says he was cyber-flashed when he was sent an image of a naked woman on WhatsApp without warning. Well, yesterday, of course, we were reporting how William Ragg, the MP for Hazel Grove in Greater Manchester, told the Times he'd provided colleagues' phone numbers to a stranger he met online. Now, in a video on Facebook, Luke Evans has revealed he was the politician who first told the police about the scam.
Here's a video I didn't expect to make on a Friday evening, but a month ago I was a victim of cyber flashing and malicious communications and blew the whistle by reporting it to the police and the parliamentary authorities as soon as this happened. The first set of messages I got was on a day I was with my wife, and I got a one-time open photo on WhatsApp of an explicit image of a naked lady. As soon as I got these, the next day I reported it to the police, the authorities and the chief whip. 10 days later, I got another set of messages. This time, however, I was sat with my team in the constituency office, so we were able to record the conversation and catch photos and videos of the messages coming through, including another explicit female image. Why am I talking about this now? Well, I actually wanted it to be private because there's an ongoing police investigation. It's been ongoing for a month, but you've probably seen in the national media, I've been hounded by journalists asking me about it. It's not too difficult to work out. There are only a few Leicestershire MPs. So I've put my name up to say, well, I hope others come forward. I'm just pleased I blew the whistle, reported it to the authorities, and it's now being looked into.
Well, that is Luke Evans, MP for Bosworth. That's a video that he put up on Facebook. You can read more in Aubrey Allegretti and Billy Kember's story in The Times this morning. It was the news website Politico that first revealed at least 6 men working in Parliament had received unsolicited messages, including explicit images, in what looked like clear attempts to compromise them. Well, Dan Bloom is Politico's senior playbook author. Morning to you, Dan.
Morning.
Were you surprised to hear about when Luke Evans came forward and explained the experience that he'd had?
Well, I wasn't surprised to hear it because my colleague Aggie Chambray and I have been working on this story for a couple of months, and we were aware that Luke Evans was one of several kind of people who'd been targeted by this scam. I think what's interesting is that he is quite a different case from William Ragg, who has been in the media before. So William Ragg was approached by a man he met on a dating app and was essentially blackmailed, extorted for people's numbers. And as far as we can tell, it seems that perhaps Luke Evans is one of those numbers that was texted. Obviously, we don't know the exact chain of events, but Luke Evans seems to be one of those many people who was just spammed with unsolicited messages that would start kind of just friendly and flirty, and they would ramp up very quickly to explicit images being sent without being asked for. And what's interesting here is that Luke Evans, before we published our story, a few weeks before, did what most people who were receiving those messages didn't think to do or didn't think it was a serious enough threat to do, and reported it straight to the police. So he actually got the ball rolling on that one a lot earlier than some people.
Is it all men that were approached, as far as we know?
As far as we know, yes. A lot of gay men were approached, but also some straight men. And as Luke Evans points out, he was sent pictures of women. And what's interesting here is that there were two people approaching. There were probably the same person, we think, but under two numbers approaching MPs, staffers, journalists. They were calling themselves Charlie and Abby. But it was some of it was very sophisticated, and some of it was a real throw everything at the wall and see what sticks approach. So my colleague Aggie talked to someone who received messages from Charlie who said that it was short for Charlotte, and the profile picture was of a man and a woman, and they said, "Oh, I'm the woman." And then there was someone else who was a gay man who received messages from Charlie who said, "Oh, I'm the man, silly." So they knew enough about their targets to know how they should present themselves.
And what's really interesting is that, for example, one of the people who's reported to have been approached is a staffer, so someone who worked for an MP, who said, actually, I don't know William Ragg. I don't think I've ever met him. I don't know how he'd have my number. So it kind of begs the question of, is this Charlie and Abby finding a different way to get these numbers, or could there be another person like William Ragg who fell victim to this scam? I mean, what's the sense you're getting?
Well, those quotes that you've just read out were given to my colleague Aggie, and there were a few Labour staffers who feel that way. Obviously, in Westminster, people do share each other's numbers a lot. People do have numbers that they've never called and so forth. But there is a suspicion growing that there might have been someone else compromised who gave numbers away, just because there's a lot of people who've never been in the same room as William Ragg who just think, how on earth would this guy have my number or know to give it away?
And briefly, do we have any idea? I was going to say, do we have any idea of motivation yet?
No, we don't. Officials have said there's nothing to suggest that there's a hostile state here, but there's also nothing to rule it out. It could be someone who is malicious and sort of gets off on this sort of thing. It could be a criminal gang or a criminal blackmailer, or it could be anything in between. What seems clear and what experts told us is that there's a motivation here to try and get people into a compromising position. What you do from that is unclear, because so far we're not aware of anyone who's actually been sent demands for money.
Dan, thank you so much. Dan Bloom, Politico's senior playbook author.